Technology Symposium 2021. Staying Connected. Montage clips from Technology Symposium. Technology Symposium 2021. Staying Connected.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 first time ever Virtual Technology Symposium. I am Dana Barber, and I am the State Coordinator of Blind Services with the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services. Today is our 15th Technology Symposium, and it is always in partnership with the Alabama School for the Blind Alumni Association, AIDB, and ADRS. The theme this year is Staying Connected. We all know how challenging it has been to stay connected, especially over the past 15 months since the beginning of COVID-19. But here's the good thing. Today, through the use of technology, we are staying connected. So let me start by saying that we very much appreciate you and your interest in this event. Over the past several months, I have worked closely with an outstanding planning team who have dedicated many hours toward making this virtual event a success. It was a pretty large task to make something that has always been a very hands-on event virtual while keeping it interesting and exciting. But let me just say, this planning team rose to the challenge. I myself cannot take any of the credit for this virtual event because this virtual stuff is very much beyond my capacity. However, I worked on a team with some absolute brilliant minds, and they are who made this event possible. So let me take just a moment to thank them and tell you who they are. Jason Martin, Bill Adams, Michael Papp, Blair Cowan, Dina Dodd, Savannah Wilson, Renee Gray, Denise Reed, Marge Liebrick, Courtney Dodson, Melissa Alexander, Jackie Cordell, Rod Skeen, Lisa Booker, Doug Nixon, Carrie Dean, Joel Stevens, Jack Harrison, Michael Talley, Trevor Cribbs, Curtis Holman, Brenda Uptain, Debbie Culver, Joan Garrett, and Valerie Sherbert. I would also like to thank Dr. John Massia and Mr. Curtis Glisson for their continued support in all we do. So without any further ado, let's start by staying connected.
Technology Symposium 2021. Sponsored by the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services, the Alabama School for the Blind Alumni and Workers Association, and the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind. CEU Open Code 66277. Our presentation will begin shortly. CEU Open Code 66277. Our presentation will begin shortly. CEU Open Code 66277. Hello, I'm Jason Martin, the Assistive Technology Specialist for the Blind here at the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services. It is my great pleasure today to introduce our first speaker of the 2021 Technology Symposium, Laura Allen. Laura is the Head of Strategy for Accessibility and Disability Inclusion at Google. She works cross-functionally across teams to improve the accessibility and usability of Google products and processes, and to make Google a more accessible and inclusive place for people with disabilities. Due to her personal experience with low vision, she believes that technology has more power now than ever to transform lives, and progressing accessibility and disability inclusion is her true passion. Prior to her role as head of strategy, Laura was the senior accessibility program manager for the Chrome and Chrome OS teams at Google. For 6.5 years, she collaborated with engineers, designers, product managers, and researchers to make the Chrome family of products accessible and usable across platforms for people of all abilities. She also leads various accessibility workshops and trainings for teachers of the visually impaired, advocacy organization, and special education classrooms. In addition, Laura helps to lead Google's presence at major accessibility conferences, as she believes that connecting with the community and gathering hands-on feedback is critical. Laura also represents Google in the Teach Access organization, where various technology companies, higher education institutions, and disability advocacy organizations come together to drive inclusion of accessibility in core computer science, design, human-centered interaction programs, and other key disciplines to close the accessibility skills gap. As of 2020, she serves as the chair of the Teach Access Executive Committee. Since 2017, Laura has also served on the board of directors for the San Francisco Lighthouse for the Visually Impaired. As of June 2020, she serves on the board of the Alpha Point Foundation, an organization centered around empowering individuals who are visually impaired to achieve their goals and aspirations and gain meaningful employment. Prior to her role in accessibility, Laura worked as an account manager in Google's large customer sales division, where she advised business-to-business technology companies on their advertising and marketing strategies. For her undergraduate education, Laura studied international business, marketing, and music at Georgetown University. She also completed an executive leadership graduate program at Stanford University in March 2021. Again, it is my great pleasure to welcome Laura Allen.
Hello, everyone at the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind and the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services. My name is Laura Allen, and I work on accessibility and disability inclusion at Google, and I'm very happy to be here today with you all. All right, let's dive in. So in today's presentation, we'll talk at a high level, just really quickly about why accessibility matters to us, go into Chromebook accessibility features, then also talk about some newer Chrome accessibility updates and features, and then talk a bit about some additional apps and extensions that can be used on Chromebooks or within the Chrome browser to further customize the experience for students. And then share some anecdotes that we've collected over the years from different educators, teachers, and trainers about how they're using the G Suite, or now we also call it Workspace apps for diverse learners. Then we'll talk about where to learn more with some resources. Okay, so first off, I think everybody here is obviously already bought into why accessibility matters, but 15% of the world's population has some form of a disability, and this is just a massive, massive number. And when thinking about disability, we often think about it in different categories, which can help us better understand user needs. So think about the category of vision, which can be anyone who's blind or low vision. I happen to be in this category. I'm low vision and use a variety of different assistive technology tools to be productive and independent in my day-to-day life. We think about hearing, so individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Motor and mobility, so this could be any sort of loss of function of a body part, ranging from total paralysis to more so limited dexterity or mobility. And then the realm of cognitive, which is so massive and so diverse. But this can be any sort of challenge in processing information, possibly could impact reading, writing, organization, focus, communication, and more. And there are 93 million children living with a disability worldwide. And 1 in 5 school-age children have special needs in the United States. So it's just such a large amount of students that this impacts and classrooms that this impacts. And we know that access, especially at such a young age in the early education system, access or lack thereof can really shift someone's entire trajectory through their life. So we at Google really believe in building tools, building assistive technology features into the products that are being used, especially thinking about how frequently Chromebooks are being used in classrooms. We want these to be really usable, really accessible devices for everyone, and to make learning available and accessible to everyone. So Chromebooks come with a lot of different accessibility features built in right from the very first time that you boot up and set up a device. So I'll go through a number of these in different categories. So the first category is around making things easier to see on the Chromebook. So there are different ways to make content larger. The most basic way is to increase the size of the browser content itself. And you can do this by pressing Control+ to increase or Control- to decrease. And this will just make that browser content larger without making anything else on the screen larger. And you can press Control-0 to reset at any time to the default. But for many folks, this is not going to be large enough, and you'll need to have everything on the screen be bigger. So to make everything larger, you can just add Shift, so Control-Shift+ to increase everything, including the Chrome tabs and the lower shelf of apps at the bottom of the Chromebook. Control-Shift- to decrease, and Control-Shift-0 to reset back to the default. But of course, again, depending on vision, that still might not be large enough. So we have 2 different magnifiers that are available in accessibility settings on the Chromebook. So we have the full screen built-in magnifier, which again, you can go to settings and accessibility and enable screen magnifier, or you can press Control-Search-M as a magnifier at any time to turn this on or off. And you can adjust the zoom level all the way up to 20 times the default size. And you can either do that in settings or through pressing Control and Alt and scrolling 2 fingers on the touchpad, or through pressing Control and Alt and pressing the brightness up or brightness down keys. And the way that you can pan on with the full screen magnifier is that you can use 2 fingers on the touchpad and scroll around. You could use 2 fingers on the touch screen if you have a Chromebook with a touch screen and pan around that way. And we now also recently added the ability to use the keyboard to pan around. So you can now press Control and Alt and the arrow keys to pan that magnifier viewport. We also have the docked magnifier, and I'll play a quick video of the way that this works, but essentially it makes the top 1/3 of the screen a magnified viewport, and then it resizes everything else to fit into the bottom 2/3 of the screen. And then you can use your mouse cursor to choose what's being shown and magnified. And you can turn this on either through settings or through pressing Control-Search-D as in docked. And then the same things apply in terms of adjusting. It can go all the way up to 20x, or whatever level makes the most sense for you, for your students. I personally like for this one to press Control and Alt and the brightness up key or the brightness down key, because it just gives a little bit more precision in terms of the increment at which it's getting larger or smaller. We also have an adjustable mouse cursor. So you can, once this is on in settings, you can choose from a sliding scale of the size that works best for you. And now we have a variety of different colors to choose for the mouse cursor to make it more visible or even just a little bit more fun. There's also a feature in settings for accessibility about highlights, and there are three distinct features here of highlighting the mouse cursor, the text caret, or the focused item. So if you're using the keyboard to navigate through the screen, this will basically draw a colored ring around those items. And you could either turn on one, two, or all three of these at once. And the ring will appear as it's in use or in motion, and then it will disappear once it stops. So if I were to stop moving my mouse, then it goes away, and then it's back when you're in motion. And the idea with this is that it's not meant to add additional clutter, but it's meant to help to add more visual distinction when you are using these important items. We also have a high contrast mode, which will invert colors on the screen. I use this feature every single day because I have a lot of light sensitivity. So being able to very quickly toggle is really, really important to me. So again, you can do this through settings or through pressing Control Search H as in high contrast to really toggle very quickly. All right, now let's talk a little bit about features for improved motor interactions. So we have dictation available into any text field on the device. You can turn this on in settings, and then you're able to just place your cursor into any edit fields and either click the microphone icon that appears on the bottom right of the screen, or press Search plus D as in dictate to start speaking. We also have an on-screen keyboard on Chromebooks, which will be, it's something that is definitely used very heavily on touchscreen devices, but this can also be used on a device that is not touchscreen that you'd be using with your mouse or touchpad or a switch controller, which we'll talk about in a bit, to be able to type not on the physical keyboard. So this is available, and once it's on, basically anytime you put your cursor into an edit field, it will automatically pop up and appear and allow you to type. And there also is an ability to dictate within the on-screen keyboard if you like to do a mixture of typing through the on-screen keyboard and with your voice. We also have automatic clicks. And this can be very useful for anyone for whom it's not possible to put pressure on a mouse or pressure on the touchpad to click. So automatic clicks will allow you to sort of hover over a given item, and then the computer will click it for you. And it ranges from left click, right click, click and drag, double click, pausing if you just want to consume content and not be clicking, and you can scroll with this item as well. There are a few other things that you can adjust on your touchpad or on your keyboard for further customization. So on the touchpad side, you can also enable tap to click, which is basically just allows you to very lightly tap your touchpad to click versus sort of more forcibly pushing down. And similarly, tap dragging is very same idea, a light double tap and drag to rearrange things on the screen, like if you maybe want to rearrange your Chrome tabs or rearrange your app order on the bottom of the screen. Again, this is so that you don't have to push down and drag with more dexterity there. On the keyboard side, there's also sticky keys. So this can be particularly useful for anyone for whom it's difficult to press multiple keys at once to execute a command. So this will allow you to press just one key at a time to do different commands. You can also adjust the keyboard repeat rate or adjust the delay before repeating the next key as well. We now also have Chrome OS switch access, which will allow you to connect and pair a switch for accessing the device. So we have a quick video of how some of this works. So I'll go ahead and play this.
Hello, this is a short demo covering the new setup flow in Switch Access. Switch Access is a way to navigate your Chromebook with one or more physical switches connected via USB or Bluetooth, such as the AbleNet Bluetooth switch, or by using the keys on your built-in keyboard. Start by plugging in or pairing your Bluetooth device to your Chromebook. Next, go to Settings, Accessibility, and turn on Switch Access. This will open the Switch Access settings page, where we can assign switch keys to the various actions. We'll start by opening the Select dialog, which will let us choose a switch to use for the select action. Press a switch key on your connected device. I'll press the space key on my Bluetooth keyboard. Then press the same switch again to confirm and exit. The dialog closes and my switch is now assigned to select. Let's do this again for next. We'll open the next action dialog, and then we'll press a different switch. This time I'll use Control. We'll press it again to confirm, and now when I press Control on my Bluetooth keyboard, the focus ring moves to the next item. I can now navigate around the screen using just these two switches. There are many more features of switch access, but one I'd like to highlight. Notice that the space and control keys we chose are assigned only over Bluetooth. I can still use those same keys on my built-in keyboard to type without activating switch access. Now you can use switch access with any switch you want to navigate your whole Chromebook with the click of a switch.
Great.
Hello.
Oh,
This
sorry about
is a
that.
short demo.
Okay, now we'll go to the next slide. All right, so next we'll talk a bit about captions and making content easier to hear. So mono audio is a feature that is basically helping to streamline the audio. So it will allow you to play the same audio through both earbuds or both speakers, so that perhaps if you're limited in hearing in one ear over another, you won't miss any content in stereo sound. We also now have the ability to customize caption styles from any captions that are not already customized by the service that they're playing through. And you can adjust things like the text color and the font and the text size and more through accessibility settings. You can also access the new feature from Android, which is Live Transcribe. And since you can, many Chromebooks now offer the ability to access apps from the Play Store, not only the Chrome Web Store, this is available. So if you're able to access the Play Store on your Chromebook and you do a search for Android Live Transcribe, this app is available and will basically real-time caption anything that you are doing. So you can get this access to live captions as you need them, whether in the classroom or whether just using the device more, socially or whatever you need. And this is available in many different languages. Okay, now we'll talk a bit about spoken feedback on Chromebooks. And we have the Chromevox screen reader, which is the full system screen reader, which is meant to give audio spoken feedback for the entire device as you're navigating through. It will kind of give you audio cues and give you that audio spoken feedback every time you move around the device. You can turn this on at any time by pressing Control-Alt-Z as in zebra, even from the very first time that you're turning on a Chromebook to set it up. And you can also, of course, turn it on through settings. And there are lots of different changes that have been going on with Chromevox over the last few years. There's been a lot of progress on just making the whole experience faster and more consistent. We've enabled this new set of menus at the very top. So at any time you can press the search key plus period, and this menu system will appear, which gives you the ability to search through the menus now and find what you're looking for faster. Also a whole list of your jump commands for the screen reader, speech customizations, a list of all of your open tabs, and much, much more. Lots of things that have come. There's also smart sticky mode now, which was a recent change. So if you're using sticky mode, which will basically mean that you can double tap the search key, which is the Chromevox modifier key, and that will turn on sticky mode so that you don't have to hold down search every time you want to do a key command. So like, for example, without sticky mode on, you would press search plus the letter B to navigate by button, or search plus the right arrow to navigate to the next object. So if you turn on sticky mode, then you don't have to hold search down while you do that. And now we have smart sticky mode, which basically makes it easier as you transition into a text field and you want to type. it will automatically turn off sticky mode, so you have access to type all, with all the keys on the keyboard. And then when you exit out of the text field, it turns it back on. So just an easier transition between. We also have a brand new Chromevox tutorial as of this year. So I'll just play a quick video about the tutorial as well.
This is a short video demo of the new Chromevox tutorial. Specifically, I will be demoing a small set of the quick orientation flow, which is helpful for new Chromevox users. As an overview, the quick orientation covers the following topics: keyboard layout, basic navigation, tab navigation, and drop-down lists. To get started, I'm going to press Search plus O then T to open the tutorial, then navigate to the first lesson in the quick orientation.
Chromevox tutorial, heading 1. Press Search plus right arrow or Search plus left arrow to browse topics. Quick orientation. Quick orientation tutorial, 10 lessons. Welcome to Chromevox. Welcome to Chromevox. Welcome to the Chromevox tutorial. To exit this tutorial at any time, press the escape key on the top left corner of the keyboard. To turn off Chromevox, hold Ctrl and Alt, and press Z when you're ready. Use the spacebar to move to the next lesson.
This is the first lesson in the tutorial. Notice that at the very end, the lesson asks me to press the spacebar to continue. This is a new addition to the tutorial. We have added interactive lessons that introduce a key or key combination, then ask the user to press that key or key combination to continue. There are several such lessons, but let's go through the first few to get a sense of how this works. I will stop this demo after completing the basic navigation lesson. So to continue, I'm going to press the spacebar.
Essential keys, Control. Let's start with a few keys you'll use regularly. The Control key can be used to stop any current speech. Find the Control key on the bottom left corner of your keyboard. To continue, press the Control key.
So I'm going to locate the Control key in the bottom left corner of my keyboard, and all I have to do to continue to the next lesson is to press it.
Essential keys, Shift. Now, find the left Shift key, which is directly above the Control key. To continue, press the left Shift key.
So I'm going to move my finger up one key and press the Shift key. And again, all I have to do is press it to continue to the next lesson.
Essential keys, Search. Next, you'll learn about the Search key. The Search key is used in combination with other keys for Chromevox commands. The Search key is immediately above the left Shift key. To continue, press the Search key.
Now again, the Search key is the most important key for Chromevox because it's used in so many commands. Again, the Search key is right above the left Shift key. So all I have to do to continue to the next lesson is move my finger up one key and press it.
Basic navigation. Now you'll learn some basic navigation. You can hold Search and press the arrow keys to move around the screen. To continue, press Search plus right arrow.
This one's a little bit more tricky since I have to press two keys in order to continue. But we already know where the Search key is, and the right arrow key is in the bottom right corner of the keyboard. So I'm going to press those two keys together to continue.
If you reach an item you want to click, press Search plus space. Try it now to continue.
Same thing here. This one requires two keys, but we already know where the Search key and the spacebar are. So we just need to press both of those together to continue.
So I'll go ahead and pause there, but you can get a sense of what the new tutorial is like. It's much more in-depth, gives people a lot more opportunity to kind of really give things a try and understand where the different keys are. And this will appear whenever you first turn on Chromevox, but it's also available through that menu system. You can turn it on, at any time.
This is a short video.
Okay, there we go. Okay. We also now have a hint during the device setup for Chromevox. So if you turn on a device for the very first time, for example, you're turning on your Chromebook, and maybe you're somebody with a visual impairment and you don't know the keyboard shortcut to turn on Chromevox, which is Control-Alt-Z. So now we'll actually have a pop-up that appears with spoken feedback. If you wait a certain amount of time, that will kind of prompt you and say, do you want to activate Chromevox? And it's just a smoother way to help those who are visually impaired to set up the device fully independently. Chromebooks also have Braille support with Chromevox. So whether you're using USB or Bluetooth Braille display, you are able to connect or pair them, and there's no additional setup needed. It'll just kind of work with Chromevox. Okay, so next I'd like to shift gear a bit and talk about Select to Speak, which is another form of spoken feedback on a Chromebook, but it's meant to be a little bit different. So this, for example, is the feature that I use on a daily basis because I still have some remaining central vision, but only a little bit. So I really, really benefit from being able to listen to text read aloud, but don't necessarily need to rely on the full screen reader at this point, at least. So Select to Speak is more like on-demand text-to-speech, where you will choose a certain part of the screen to be spoken aloud, either through, there's a button that appears when you turn this feature on in the lower right corner, and you can either click or tap that, and then drag a box around content to be heard, or you can use the search key, hold down the search key, and click and drag, and then only that content will be read aloud. And there have been a lot of recent enhancements as of this spring that have launched actually for Select to Speak. And some of these features are really helpful, particularly for people with dyslexia. So I'll play a quick video to show some of these improvements.
This is a short video demo of the enhanced Select to Speak playback features. This demo will cover the following 3 behaviors: pausing and resuming playback, navigating between sentences and paragraphs, and changing the speech rate. All 3 of the above will be accomplished by using the new floating control panel. So now let's get right into the demo. I've already activated Select to Speak and am on the CSUN conference website. To activate Select to Speak, I'm going to hold the search key, which is directly above the left shift key, then click and drag. This will create a highlighted box around the content I want to be read.
Conference overview. Join us for the 36th Annual CSUN Assistive Technology Conference, March 6th through March 14th, 2021. For the
Once I've selected some text to be read, a floating control panel pops up with buttons that can be used to control playback. You probably noticed that speech was paused shortly after it started. That's because I pressed the pause button in the panel, and now I'm going to press the resume button to finish the current sentence.
For the first time, the CSUN conference will be held virtually, giving everyone across the world the opportunity to experience the latest innovation, research.
If I want to hear the previous sentence again, I can press the previous sentence button in the control panel. This will allow me to easily hear the content again if I want it repeated.
Join us for the 36th Annual CSUN Assistive Technology Conference, March 6th through March 14th, 2021. For the first,
I can also navigate between paragraphs. This is nice because I can move Select to Speak around the page without having to exit my currently selected text. I also don't have to select new text in order to have it read to me.
the conference will have live-streamed events, including the keynote address and featured presentations.
I can also customize my speech rate so that it's just right for me in the moment. The current speech rate is a little too slow for my taste, so I'll speed it up just a bit.
The conference will have live-streamed events, including the keynote address and featured presentations. Register.
That concludes the short demo of some upcoming Select to Speak enhancements. To recap, we covered pausing and resuming speech, navigating through sentences and paragraphs, and adjusting the speech rate. Thank you.
Awesome. So lots of new things coming there, and there will be some more things coming out soon in Select to Speak. So definitely really excited about all the progress on that feature.
This is a short video.
All right, so now I'd like to shift gears a bit and talk about a few recent Chrome browser updates. So these will be available across different devices, not only on Chromebooks. The first being Caret browsing. Chrome now has Caret browsing, which is built into the browser, so you can just press F7 on different devices, and you're able to toggle this to use the arrow keys to navigate around and select text. So you can really use those arrows to navigate a web page, even if it's, typically you wouldn't be able to use the arrows, you'd only be able to use the mouse to select text. So here's a quick GIF of this, just using the arrow keys to navigate through text. Great. You can also save tagged PDFs, and it will preserve more of the accessibility. So for example, when you go and save as PDF on a web page, you can actually get the accessible tagged version of the PDF now. So it'll preserve things like headings and links and alt text and images, which will just help to improve the accessibility of that PDF. We also now have a feature very similar to what we showed earlier on the Chromebook about focus highlights. So essentially, this is showing a focus ring around as you're navigating through a website. You're able to see a more colorful, brighter focus ring for better visibility. We also have automatic language detection, which is available. So Chrome is able to detect what language is on the page and then more seamlessly transition the screen readers to read in those different languages. So it's not just reading English in another language, essentially.
Chrome Canary has new window, link, ATM/branch, link.
Español.
You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control, Option, Space, press Notificación Importante, and two more items, dialog, heading level 2.
Por favor, tenga en cuenta que es posible que las comunicaciones futuras del banco, ya sean verbales o escritas, sean
Okay,
únicamente.
so there it's transitioning between different languages. We also have a feature called Get Image Descriptions, and this was released on desktop on Chrome last year or so. And what it does is this aims to help to add suggested alt text for images that are not described or images that don't have alt text that the developer has added in. And we've now brought this to Android as well. So Chrome on Android has this feature, which can be enabled through the settings. And again, this is really targeted for screen reader users to be able to give that idea of what's in an image to provide a greater level of context, even if the developer has not added alt text. Of course, the best thing is for developers to be building inclusively and accessibly and add specific alt text for all images that they want to be described, but this helps to sort of bridge the gap in that sense. So here's a very quick demo of this.
Get descriptions button. Double tap to activate. Image descriptions added for this page. Clankium. More options button. Double tap to activate. Appears to be fresh fruits in a bowl. Blueberry, peach, fruit, graphic.
So there you go. You get the appears to be fresh fruits in a bowl, which before that it would have just said image or graphic or a long string of numbers that are the file name, which we see that often. So gives a little bit more context in that sense. Okay. We also have a very exciting update of live captions on Chrome. And live captions are available now in settings for any audio content, whether that's a video or a podcast. So let me just show a really quick demo here, basically of using a podcast.
Support for How I Built This and the following message come from American Express. You want to build your business? They can help build your business with financing solutions for eligible business.
As it's playing, that caption bar appears at the bottom of the screen, and it is movable and adjustable, but is able to do live captioning of any of the audio content, which can really help to bridge the gaps on content that is not currently captioned. So really important for deaf and hard of hearing users, as well as honestly anyone who maybe you don't have your headphones with you and you just need to read instead of listen. Lots of applications for this.
Support for How I Built This and the following message.
Okay, so next, shift away from the features that are built into the browser and into the operating system and talk a bit about using Chrome with some different extensions. And just to give you a sense, this is not a comprehensive list. This is something that we've pulled together over the years working with different educators on some of the top extensions that they like to use in their classrooms that can be useful for different instances. So this first category around reducing clutter and distraction on the screen, some folks are using the extension called Stay Focused. And this can be really helpful because it helps you to limit and specify the time that you spend on each site. And some teachers are saying this is a really very helpful extension for students with ADHD or any challenges focusing. Then there's the Magic Scroll web reader, and there are a handful of different extensions that do similar things. But this will remove clutter and distraction from the website so that you can really focus on the core content and strip away things outside of that core content. AdBlock Plus can be useful to block ads. Again, similar sort of sense of you want to just strip away clutter from the screen. Next, we have increasing visibility and reducing eye strain. So the Beeline reader is an interesting one that we've heard is super useful for many people with dyslexia. And it helps to reduce eye strain and basically assists with eye tracking through a page. So it color codes a page. So for example, if you have a block of text, it will actually color code the end of the first line of text to be the same color as the beginning of the next line of text. And then so on. The end of that line will be the same color as the beginning of the next line. So your eyes can more seamlessly follow where to go next, which is a really interesting idea. And they also support additional features like a dyslexic-friendly font, which some users find very, very useful to make each letter more specifically individual. We also have the Google Color Enhancer. This one just so happens to be built by someone at Google, but the rest are not. And this is really helpful for anybody who is colorblind. And what it does is it allows you to choose what type of color blindness you have, and then it will help to filter the colors on the page to improve visibility for you. MagX is an interesting one that can use your Chromebook keyboard, or sorry, your Chromebook camera, or a plugged-in document reader or camera, and use that to help make sort of something in the physical world more visible to you for someone who's low vision. So for example, if I have a piece of paper with tiny text or poor contrast, I can then use the camera or a connected document reader and use it with this app, and essentially I can then invert the colors, I could increase the size, and do a number of different things just to make that more accessible. In the category of improving content interaction, there are lots of different extensions in this category that we could talk about, but we often hear a lot about Read and Write and about Co-Writer. So Read and Write, it has great features for word prediction and lots of features around built-in text-to-speech, a picture dictionary, voice notes, and a number of other functionalities. And Co-Writer is really, really excellent word prediction and a lot of support with grammar and spelling. Dualist is an interesting one. It's very simple, but it will essentially split the screen on a Chromebook or on a different device, so using Chrome, as if you had a dual monitor. So it's within like one click, essentially, you can choose, okay, I want this window to be in the left 1/3 of my screen and this window to be in the right 2/3. And then with one click, you can just switch back. So it just reduces the need to switch back and forth between windows and lose your sense of focus and whatnot. On Chromebooks, I did just want to mention that there's an app that's built by Crick Software, which is called Clicker Communicator and available in the Chrome Web Store. And this is for, it's an augmentative and alternative communication app targeted at younger students with communication challenges or perhaps who are nonverbal, and will allow you to use AAC on the Chromebook to string together sentences, phrases, words to verbalize from the Chromebook. All right, and in this last section, I wanted to cover a few anecdotes we've gathered over the years just about how different educators or trainers are using G Suite, or now we've changed it to Workspace, if you've heard of the name Workspace, different apps in different ways with their learners. So for example, Google Drive, one teacher said that he uses Drive and does an exercise with them about making Drive like their new digital backpack. And in the beginning, when school starts, they talk about, okay, well, how are we going to stay organized for the year? How do we learn about folders and naming conventions and searching, even like color coordination and things like that, just to really help to keep the students on track of keeping an organized structure so they can find what they need. And it's just a great opportunity for learning some of these important organization skills. Google Docs, there are lots of different sort of things that we've heard about Docs. And one of the things that we like to mention, and this of course is a little bit different when we're all working from home, but still very important. One anecdote that we had heard was that back a few years ago when folks were still in physical classrooms fully, and there was one student who had ADHD and basically had a lot of questions and couldn't focus until he had his questions answered. And he kept interrupting the class, kept raising his hand or just sort of interjecting, and it wasn't working for the class. So the teacher was thinking about having to pull him out of the class, and they decided to try something before doing so. And they basically had set him up with his Chromebook and a Google Doc, and they had a teaching aid sitting in the back of the classroom using the same, Google Doc, having that open and having the real-time collaboration feature. And anytime the student had a question, he was able to type it out without interrupting the class, and the teaching aid could answer immediately. And it just really helped the student to feel more comfortable and more aware and get his questions answered. But it also allowed the rest of the class to continue. And what I love about the story is that the teaching aid wasn't even sitting right next to the student. She was sitting in the back of the classroom. This is very discreet, really helps to give the student more independence and more dignity in that sense, which I just loved. So of course, in this work from home environment, or learn from home environment, students can still do this with their teachers, with aides. If some students are in the classroom some days and at home other days, depending on where they are, they can still do this because of the real-time collaboration feature, and you don't necessarily need to be physically together, which is pretty great. Okay, so next, Google Slides. Slides are obviously used for presentations. That's what the number one use typically is. But we've actually heard of a number of educators using slides in some really creative ways. So for example, some teachers will use slides to be able to break down assignments into smaller chunks. So just one example of this, like if you had to write an essay about something, and for a lot of students, writing an essay could be very overwhelming because, okay, well, how am I going to write 2 pages about this topic? Where do I begin? And we heard that some teachers will help to break down that assignment using the slides. So they'll take a slide and say, okay, in the header, they would write, okay, let's start with an introduction of 2 to 3 sentences about this. And then the student would write in the body of the slide their 2 to 3 sentences. And the teacher could add comments or add any other tips or resources in the speaker notes. And then they would go to the next slide and say, okay, now write a sentence about this. And it was a way that they could sort of make the task seem less large, more digestible. And then at the end, you go through the process of, okay, well, now let's copy and paste and string this all together. And you've got, an essay essentially that you can then edit. So I really love that idea just because, it's not something that we typically think of when using slides. All right, and then Google Forms. So Google Forms, of course, are most commonly used for surveys, quizzes, things like that. But we've also heard a lot of schools that are starting to use forms to track progress or growth from their students. They could even be looking at things that are within IEPs and trying to track across different teachers or even across different time periods how a student is doing. So we thought this was an interesting way. Some schools are saying that they are able to kind of create a form and have teachers each at the start and at the end of each of the half of the year or whatever it may be, fill it out. It's time stamped, who filled it out. And then they can also share that feedback with parents or guardians, which can be really valuable. So with that, I'd love to wrap up and just share a few resources about where to learn more. So we have our Google Accessibility site available at google.com/accessibility, which has lots of different information and resources about many different product areas. We have a set of Help Center articles that are all about accessibility that are pulled into one place at g.co/help/accessibility. So you can go there to do searches for anything about Chrome, about Android, about Chromebooks, about YouTube, about G Suite workspace apps, all of that. We have also dedicated help centers for all the different product areas that are not only about accessibility, but are more so just the entire product. So for example, the Chromebook one is support.google.com/Chromebook, and there are many, many others. We also have a set of videos available. And this spans across many different areas of Google, but we do have about 21 for Chrome and Chrome OS and hope to add more soon. And that playlist is available at goo.gle/A11Y-YouTube if you're interested in catching some of those videos. There's also the Google for Education site, which there's an accessibility portion at edu.google.com/accessibility. And during this period of learning and teaching from anywhere, the Google for Education team has also created a Teach from Anywhere site. And this includes lots and lots of information and best practices and tips tips for parents and guardians and families and students and teachers. So this site is available at g.co/teachfromanywhere. And there are some very specific accessibility tools in there. In the family section, for example, there is a guide for parents and guardians, which really dives into a lot of these different features across Google products that, maybe the teachers are very familiar with, but it's not always likely that a parent or guardian knows the details of the technology that their child may be using. So there is this guide, it's many, many pages long, where a teacher could or a parent could dive in and just get more familiar with the different tools available. As for communication and getting in touch with the teams, there are a few different Google groups, which you can go to groups.google.com and search for these and ask to join. So there's one at Chromebook-accessibility@googlegroups.com, which talks about all things Chromebooks, and Chromevox. If you're interested in really diving in on the screen reader side, there's Chromevox-discuss@googlegroups.com. And again, these are community forums. There are Googlers on there, but there are also lots of folks in the community just who may have feedback or questions and want to discuss different things. But if you're looking for more of a sort of one-to-one support model, we also do have a team of support agents, and you can learn more about this and how to reach them at g.co/disability support. And this team has a variety of different ways to be in contact, from chat to sort of email to phone. We now have a partnership with Be My Eyes, and there's also ASL interpreting support. So lots of different ways to reach out. So if you do have questions, or you hit an issue, or you want to submit feedback, you can always sort of reach out to that team and it'll get directed to the right group at Google. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's great to be here virtually with you all. And I hope you all are doing well and staying safe in this strange year. Yeah, take care and all the best to you. Thank you.
Visit our website at altechsymposium.net. Our next session will begin shortly. CEU close code 42206. CEU close code 42206. Visit our website at altechsymposium.net. Our next session will begin shortly. CEU close code 42206.